Ever wondered what the first multinational corporation was? The first to issue stock? The first to have a globally recognized logo? The answer might surprise you. It wasn't Apple. It wasn't Coca-Cola. It was a company from the 17th century that forever changed the world. This is the story of the Verenigde Oostindische Company, or VOC, the Dutch East India Company. Our story begins in the year 1602. The Netherlands, a small but ambitious seafaring nation, wanted a piece of the lucrative spice trade dominated by Portugal. Nutmeg, cloves, and mace were worth more than their weight in gold in Europe, and the Dutch merchants were tired of being middlemen. So the Dutch government did something revolutionary. It took 6 rival trading companies and merged them into one mega corporation, granting it a 21-year monopoly on all Dutch trade in Asia. But the VOC was much more than just a trading company. The Dutch government gave it powers that today we would associate with a sovereign state. The VOC could build forts, maintain its own armies and navies, negotiate treaties, wage war, and even colonize territories. It was a government, a military, and a business, all rolled into one powerful and often brutal entity. To fund its massive expeditions, the VOC needed a revolutionary amount of capital. And this is where they made history again. Instead of relying on a few wealthy investors for a single voyage, the VOC offered shares to the general public. Anyone, from a wealthy merchant to a humble artisan, could buy a piece of the company and share in its future profits. This was the birth of the world's first publicly traded company and the Amsterdam Stock Exchange. The world's first modern stock market was created to trade these shares. For the first time, financial risk and reward were distributed among thousands of people, laying the groundwork for modern capitalism. With this massive influx of cash, the VOC's ships, identifiable by their famous logo, set sail for Asia. Their main target was the Spice Islands, modern-day Indonesia. They established their headquarters in a city they called Batavia, which we know today as Jakarta. From there, they ruthlessly expanded their control over the spice trade. They used their military might to push out the Portuguese and the English, and they enforced their monopoly with brutal efficiency. In the Banda Islands, the only source of nutmeg in the world, the VOC's actions were particularly devastating, leading to the near-total depopulation of the islands to secure their monopoly. The VOC's influence spread far beyond spices. They traded in silk from China, cotton from India, tea from Japan, and silver from just about everywhere. Their network spanned the globe from the Cape of Good Hope in South Africa, where they established a resupply station that would eventually grow into Cape Town 2 trading posts in Japan, which for over 200 years was the only point of contact between Japan and the Western world. The VOC created the first truly global supply chain, connecting continents and cultures in a way that had never been seen before. For nearly 200 years, the VOC was an unstoppable force. At its peak, it was the wealthiest company the world has ever known. Adjusted for inflation, its value dwarfed that of any modern tech giant. It operated nearly 5,000 ships, had a private army of 10,000 soldiers, and employed tens of thousands of people across the globe. The wealth it generated fueled the Dutch Golden Age, a period of unparalleled artistic, scientific, and cultural flourishing in the Netherlands. Artists like Rembrandt and Vermeer were painting masterpieces, while VOC ships were unloading precious cargo in Amsterdam's bustling port. But like all great empires, the VOC's dominance couldn't last forever. The company became a victim of its own success. It grew too large, too bureaucratic, and riddled with corruption. Officials in Asia often put their own enrichment ahead of the company's interests. The phrase "perish by corruption" became a grim joke about the company's own initials. Competition also grew fiercer. The British East India Company, learning from its Dutch rival, began to challenge the VOC's power, particularly in India. Wars like the Fourth Anglo-Dutch War in the late 18th century proved disastrously expensive and disrupted the VOC's trade routes. Furthermore, the very nature of trade was changing. The demand for bulk commodities like tea and coffee was eclipsing the high-margin, low-volume spice trade that had been the VOC's foundation. The company struggled to adapt. By the late 1700s, the VOC was drowning in debt. The ideals of the French Revolution, liberty, equality, and fraternity, were sweeping across Europe. and the monopolistic quasi-sovereign model of the VOC seemed like a relic of a bygone era. In 1796, after the French invasion of the Netherlands, the Dutch government nationalized the company. On the very last day of the 18th century, December 31st, 1799, the once mighty Verenigd Oostendisch Company was officially dissolved. Its charter expired, and its territories and debts were taken over by the Dutch state. So what is the legacy of the VOC? It's a complex and often dark one. On one hand, its innovations in finance and business are the very DNA of our modern global economy. The concept of the limited liability corporation, the issuing of stocks and bonds, the idea of a global supply chain, all these can be traced back to the VOC. It proved that a company could operate on a global scale, fundamentally changing the nature of commerce. However, we cannot ignore the dark side of this legacy. The VOC's wealth was built on a foundation of exploitation, violence, and colonial subjugation. Its history is a stark reminder that the rise of global capitalism was often intertwined with imperialism and the suffering of millions. The story of the VOC is a cautionary tale about unchecked corporate power and the devastating human costs that can come with the pursuit of profit. From the first stock market to the first global brand, the Dutch East India Company was a true pioneer. Its two-century reign as a global powerhouse left an indelible mark on the world, shaping the economies, borders, and societies we know today. It was a company that acted like a state, a business that changed history, and its story continues to echo through our modern corporate world. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this journey into history interesting, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about how the past has shaped our present. See you in the next video.